Welcome to the Sisters of the Shire podcast. I'm Abby, and alongside my co-host Ashley, we are on a mission to make J.R.R. Tolkien's epic and sometimes intimidatingly complex literary works fun and accessible to everyone, whether you are a seasoned scholar or just curious to explore Middle-earth.
This season, we're diving into the unfinished tales. We just finished the first chapter, Tuor and his journey to Gondolin, and we are just going to continue on to the next chapter about Tuor's own cousin, Turin. If you've already journeyed through these pages, high five, but stick around. We'll uncover some hidden gems and geek out over the lore and legends that make up this tale.
And if you haven't read this tale before like me, but maybe you've read other Tolkien classics like The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, and you're curious about these other stories or haven't even heard about these other stories before, but you're interested, then settle in. Our cozy corner is the perfect spot to explore these lesser known tales with zero intimidation and a ton of fun.
So, fellow adventurers, let's embark on this literary adventure together through Tolkien's unfinished tales. Let's go!
Let's do it!
Let's do it! It's June.
How are you?
And it doesn't look like June.
It's June in the northern hemisphere. Should be warm, sunny. It's beautiful. It's currently dumping rain right now. Like, maybe it's Mother Nature's way of like, here you go, sweet babies, before I burn you, with so much sunshine that you can't handle it. Here's a little bit of rain to hold you over.
Yes.
That's what I think about. That's how I think about it. Because maybe us Pacific Northwest people aren't ready for that much vitamin D and sun radiation that we literally can't handle it.
You can't handle it.
I know. My kids are currently playing outside with water balloons because evidently they need more water outside.
I mean, good for them for getting outside.
I know.
Lizzie's been playing video games and watching the dumbest show she can find on Disney Junior just to aggravate me because she stayed home sick on Friday and has just been like, you know, when like they're sick, like you're not supposed to make it fun, but then you're like, but I'm bored.
Yeah, I know. When they're not that sick where they don't want to stay in bed sleeping all day. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's Lizzie right now. It's like she just has had this like cruddy cough and we don't want to get people sick because we're trying not to be jerks.
Yes. I had to do that with my oldest the other day, and what we did was he played Legos while I read a story to him. Like I read like a chapter book.
Oh, nice.
But I was so congested because I was also sick that I couldn't breathe while I was reading to him. So I was running a marathon while trying to read a book. So I was so bad that he asked me to stop and that we just listened to an audiobook of what the book was.
Here, I know someone who can do it better than you.
I know. I was like, okay. But honestly, I was like, thank you. I can't breathe. It's really hard to read when you can't breathe out of your nose. It really is.
Yeah, I could see that. So Nate got home yesterday on Friday, from work after Lizzie and I had been in bed because, we're not supposed to have fun and we're not supposed to be running around. But, Lizzie's 6 and she might have some inherited traits from her father, let's just say. And he just kept like looking at me and I'm like, no, she needs to stay in bed because we're not supposed to have fun. And he like looks at me and he's like, Ashley, I think you're the only person I know who would be actually okay in solitary confinement. Like if you just sat here in these in this room, you'd be fine. I'm like, other people aren't like that. Am I programmed differently? Abby, I know you can. We've done it many times during the summer. Yes. But I mean, is this a rare thing or is this like a non, like I don't have certain traits about me?
You are blessed with a mind and body that is cool with like the ultimate relaxation of just chilling and not doing anything, where other people's brains are like, if I don't get up and move around and accomplish something, I've done nothing with my life, and then they freak out. But you were like, I've done so much with my life, I'm so cool, I'm just gonna sit here and enjoy my relaxation, and I've earned this. And you know what, that's a level of self, what is that called, awareness,
Awareness.
that
Yeah.
it's perfect. I'm proud of you.
Well,
So many
it's funny
people
because at the
long
same
to do that.
time, because I remember our summers of just like laying in bed and watching movies all day. And then it was like the last week, and I had this like, oh no. I do
We
get
gotta do
that.
something.
Yeah. But yeah, it takes me a while to get there.
Yes, yes. Mine is more told to me by my, like, I evidently can't do that very much because I have, a toddler and other
Well,
children and activities running around. But when I do get to rot in bed, that's what it is called. But when I do get to
mhm.
rot in bed, my children come snuggle up to me, and they love to, like, even my littlest comes up to me and he just goes, cute, and which means, please show me cute things on your phone, like cute baby animals and cute, like, cat videos and cute zoo animal videos. They'll just walk up and climb into bed with me, and they'll just say, cute animals, please. And I'm like,
Our
oh,
time
fine.
that we watch
Yeah.
the cute animals.
Yeah. Like this one that we watched the other day, where this lady caught a squirrel in a cage because she was trying to catch something else, and she didn't mean to catch the squirrel, and the squirrel was just sitting there with his, like, little paws, like holding his little paws together in front of him, and she's like, now I didn't mean to arrest you, you were being very polite, and he's like sitting there just looking at her like he's listening to her, like, yes ma'am, yes ma'am, like, it's uh it kills me every time I watch it. The cutest
And you
little squirrel.
haven't sent it to me.
I will. I will send it
You
to
sent
you.
me the kitten video. That was adorable.
I
But
know. I will send. That is my husband and my love language. Is we just send each other just adorable animals, like, all day, because we have pretty stressful days where we're like, I need to see a baby raccoon this instant, or I'm gonna explode. We understand that of each other. Being 15 years married, that's what you got to do, Keep
that's
that
the
marriage
secret.
alive.
That's the secret.
I need to see baby ducklings going down a slide into a pool right now.
Just
So,
have them on standby. Have like a playlist
yeah,
all ready to go.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love you guys. Well,
Well,
talking about not cute things,
yeah.
I'm like, how do you segue here? How much do you remember of last week? I mean, not that it's super important, but just to kind of close the chapter on tour, because we're entering a new chapter this week. But
Well,
yeah, what do you remember of last
they
week?
finally made it. They finally
You
made
finally
it.
made it.
But before they finally made it, they had met this group of elves that were very hostile towards them, and Tour kind of had to, like,
Mm-hmm,
step
mm-hmm.
up and be like, hey, we have worked too hard and walked too far and starved too long and been cold for you to give us this lip and say, hey, we can't come in here because we're not on the list and we're not cool enough. I'm going to show you who's cool enough. And then he's like, well, how does he show him that he's cool enough? No. He starts to, like, be Olmo almost. Like, he starts to grow. Like, he looks at, like,
Yes.
kind of an illusion that he's, like, getting taller. And then, like, his voice
Mm-hmm.
changes, but it sounds like Olmo's talking. It very much
Yes.
reminds me of that scene in the first Lord of the Rings when Gandalf gets big and his voice gets crazy. That's what I kind of think
I'm
of.
not trying to rob you.
I'm trying to help you. He looks so cute in that scene. Anyway, I know. Very much mom and toddler like
Yes.
situation. Um so he shows
They
his
got to go
worth, I guess.
through how many gates?
He shows his worth, I guess, and they're like, "Fine, you can come in,
Yeah.
but you have to pass the 7 gates of Gondolin,
Yes.
and they're each
Ah.
one's more crazy than the last." And then um, uh so there's 7
Mhm.
gates. Okay, let's see if I can remember the order of which they go in.
Okay.
There's wood,
Yes.
and then uh,
Think of three little pigs.
I said straw last time. A straw
Going the
hat.
other way.
Then, uh, marble? No,
Just
like
stone.
stone,
Stone.
marble. I'll say
Yeah.
marble because it's probably what they use because it's pretty. A quartz, a quartz.
I like
um,
quartz. Yeah, let's do quartz.
yeah. And then
Remember this the guards here had fire sticks, basically. Fire
yeah,
axes.
and their armor would look like it was glowing, like it was like molten metal still.
Molten flame. Yeah. So you remember what metal that
Um,
was?
bronze,
Yes, good job.
bronze.
Okay.
Which how much bronze, man? Where'd you get all that
Right.
stuff? Um,
Also makes me think of Mistborn. But anyways, proceed.
yes, yes. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then
Mhm.
4 was that silver and gold yet?
Not yet. There's one more before
Like
that.
one more in between there.
Yeah. It's similar to bronze, in terms of like old weaponry.
Aluminum. Aluminum foil.
I mean, it's a similar color, I
And it's
guess.
like swans. It's like the swans, like the leftovers, like when you get
Yes.
leftovers from a restaurant.
Yes. There's a
Um,
restaurant in Gondolin, and then the once you're done with your leftovers,
and
you
all their
donate your
hats with
aluminum foil.
we have to
Yes.
ration, we have to get our gate up. It's like rolls and rolls of aluminum foil. And then they also have the guards all have hats like the in the movie Signs where he like wraps the foil around their heads to keep the
Yes.
alien. It's like that.
And then
So
they don't get swords; they get batons that are the empty rolls. It's the wood, the cardboard roll in the middle. You just get this
yeah,
cardboard
yeah.
baton.
And then the scary their swords. No, and then the sword part, like the serrated edge of the of the
Oh
box.
yes. There you go.
You gave me a paper cut. No. um. So it's not aluminum foil. No.
It's not aluminum foil.
Um.
Same
Dang it.
color.
It's not steel because I know that one's later.
Mm-hmm.
Is it copper?
No, that one
No.
was kind of mixed in with the bronze.
Brass. Bronze.
Heart of. Oh no, was it? I forget what that. Oh, man. I am man.
Iron Man.
Iron Man. I was trying to
Iron.
Heart of Iron.
Which one
Something of
got
ice.
rust
What
really
of ice?
bad? Anyway,
You would think so, but
they keep
whatever.
the temperature, moisture controlled in there.
Yes. Cool, but
and
also
then
those guards got to do all day.
and then it's silver and gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was really pretty. I would want to see those ones because it had to do with the silver tree and the golden tree from
Heck yeah.
Valinor, which is pretty.
Yes.
And then the last one is the steel one, which
Nicely done, Abby.
which was made by the emo kid that no
Yes.
one liked.
Yep.
Which
the
I don't get why
nephew.
he got to make a gate.
Yeah, who knows? They had to throw him something. They had to give him something to do, like instead of staring at his cousin. Like, hey, why don't you do something productive with your time instead of staring at your cousin?
So they went through all of those, and they get to the I did not know this until you said this last episode. was it wasn't called Gondolin. Like they didn't call it Gondolin. They just called
No.
it the not the
Hidden
Lost City,
City.
the Hidden City. So they finally made it to the Hidden City, and he's like, I could see him just falling to his knees, just crying, like, we made it, we finally got here, and like movie epic scene. The light shone down on Tour, and they finally got to see what armor he was wearing, which I'm like, was his cloak really big that it covered everything? Like, was it like a
Apparently.
poncho? uh,
Yeah.
so they finally saw his armor, which I guess is like a symbol of something that they like
Well,
had
Turgon
heard
had
about
made it
before.
before they even left. Yeah. He'd made it a
And so
long time ago. This is really old armor.
they're like, oh, he is chosen to be here. Like he is supposed to be here. He's a chosen. What's the word?
Messenger, chosen
Like hero or something, or
liaison. Oh,
yeah. Uh,
sure.
that the
Hero. Chosen.
Do you think that they like talk about it beforehand? Like, hey, whoever shows up in this armor, like this is a good thing. Like this is a
Yeah, I think.
foretold
Well,
type of
I'm not
situation.
sure how many people knew about it. Turgon for sure. I'm not sure if he told anyone else or if anyone else was privy to the conversation between Turgon and Olmo after they made the armor. But basically, Olmo had said, like, hey, if anyone comes in this armor, they're there to help.
Oh,
But I would be like a little wary, like, but things are fine right now. Why are you here? What's gonna happen? Like, wait a
oh
minute.
man, yeah, that's not a good sign.
Lock the gate.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that would make sense. Anyway, so they finally made it.
Yay.
The
And there was
end.
much rejoicing.
Yay!
Yay. Well, now we are on chapter 2. And as I discussed with Abby before we started recording, so if you thought Tour's journey was long, I counted it. So there's chapter 1 was 39 pages long, and chapter 2 was like 105 or something. So I mean, I'll do my best, guys. Here, okay? But there's a lot more
Understand what
dialogue.
chapters are.
I don't know. He has like sections.
Honestly, I wouldn't even call them chapters. I would just call them like that's that story. That's that story. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Yeah.
It's just a combination of stories in one bound book. So we're on to the next story now.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that there are like section names. So there's like the childhood of Turin, and then Turin and Doriath. Like there's certain definitely sections, but there's not like numbered or anything.
Oh.
So yeah. So an interesting footnote here before we begin is how this particular tale came together. Apparently, Tolkien wanted to give this a backstory. Many years after the events in this tale take place, there was a man who lived at the Havens of Sirion. And this was after the fall of Gondolin, when Tuor, Idril, and their son Erendiel and the other survivors of the fall of Gondolin had fled there and joined others at the settlement. Remember, this area was like a big refugee settlement, basically, like people from Gondolin, people from Doriath, anyone who was like fleeing something all ended up here, including this man named Dear Hovel. Dear Hovel.
Dear Hovel sounds worse than Dear Hovel.
Oh, I know.
Doesn't
Dear
sound like a pretty name. Dear Hovel.
Dear have.
Dear Dyraville. Guys,
Dear Havel is how it's supposed to be said. It's Dirhavel. Dear Havel.
Dear Havel.
Dear Havel. Anyway, this man, Dear Havel, hey, we got to give props to Deerhavel. He's done a lot here because he was the one who gathered together all of the stories regarding the House of Hodor from this cluster of refugees living in the havens of Sirion until he was able to create this compilation, the Children of Hurin. Interestingly enough,
So
the elves loved his tale because he wrote it in the Sindar language of the elves and wrote it even in their like particular style that they liked. Hard to explain, but just go with me here. So they're like, oh, he did it right. Like they appreciated that he took the time. He was actually really good speaking the Sindar language. And so with that in mind, it was able to grow in its lore and retelling because it was in their preferred language.
Maybe it's kind of like
He did it right.
Shakespearean. Maybe
Yes,
it's kind of like
I would say it's like that.
Like you'd have to really work hard to make something sound Shakespearean, you know?
Right. I will say the book doesn't read like that, but maybe, or this section doesn't read like that. It's not like it doesn't rhyme or anything. But maybe in the Tolkien, in the like Middle Earth universe, as the story is passed on, maybe it is. I don't know. There is one version of this story where Tolkien includes that Deerhavel was actually of the House of Hodor, which is kind of an interesting idea that this man just wanted to compile his family history using the vast array of different resources he had at the Havens of Sirion. And he just wanted to compile them all together to share, with the world. Sadly, Deerhavel was killed during the raid of the Sons of Fëanor upon the Havens of Sirion. Remember, they were trying to get the Silmaril from Elwing. If you remember all that fun story. But anyways, R.I.P. Deerhavel.
Oh,
Thank you for this epic tale.
Well, at least he gets some recognition.
Right. So this episode is going to be mainly covering some backstory, reminding you of some key events from the past that you might have forgotten, just kind of setting the scene for you to really get a feel of the chapter and the feel of the characters and their motivations and of their desires, if that makes any sense.
So are we going to be hearing of people that we've heard of before, but we get to know more about them?
Correct. And we get to meet someone new, actually.
Oh, someone new.
Yeah, but not today. Next week. And I already have in my head the exact analogy of who they remind me of, and I'm going to see how long it takes you to figure it out. But that's for next week.
All right.
So this tale takes place shortly after the Battle of Sudden Flame, which was in the First Age around 455 or 456. Just in case you wanted to know. And in case you don't remember what the Battle of Sudden Flame was, it is exactly how it sounds. Morgoth basically hit the north with a literal sudden flame that turned a lovely green plain into what would later be called the Gasping Dust.
Sad.
Very sad. The end result of the battle was that the siege that the Noldor had stood for centuries outside of Angband was utterly broken. The Sons of Fëanor were scattered, and the forces of Morgoth roamed at will throughout the northern lands. It was also when High King Fingolfin was so pissed off and angry about the loss of life in the battle that he decided to challenge Morgoth to a duel. Fingolfin managed to give Morgoth a limp for the rest of his life, or the rest of his existence, I guess, because he's a Valor. But sadly, Fingolfin was killed in the process. R.I.P. Fingolfin.
I mean, he did more to physically hurt Morgoth than a lot of people did.
Right? So,
and he's a mere tiny mortal.
Mm-hmm.
I love those paintings that he's like tiny, and he's Morgoth is you.
And he's always glowing. I love how he always looks like he's glowing.
I just want his like little sword to look like a little toothpick, like just like in his in his foot.
So the years following this epic loss of a battle were rough, to say the least. Not too fun for most of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm also going to remind you back to our episodes regarding the race of men and how they settled in Beleriand. There were three main houses. How many of them can you name, Abby? I gave you one a minute ago.
I just remember that there was like a lady leader for one of them.
Yeah. The folk of Haleth. But what's I get irritated because then they're later called like the men of Brethel. I'm like, no, Haleth. Who cares about the men of Brethel? Haleth.
Yeah.
She earned it. So there's the folk of Haleth. And then do you remember the other two?
Are they called the folk of Haleth because it's like not necessarily all related people, or like
I don't know.
'cause why are they called the folk of something? Because I don't remember the names of the other ones, but I remember they're the house of something. Because it's
I
like
think because Haleth wasn't really like she didn't appoint herself like a queen or like the chief or anything. She was just kind of the unspoken leader. Whereas like the house of the other houses, I'm not going to give it away to you right there, but they were more seen as like the king or like the chief or the captain. Not captain, but you get what I'm saying. Like it was more the folk of Haleth and the men of Brethel. I can't help but think of like they were like forest people, if that makes any sense. So it was just a lot more chill and laid back.
what I think of them more of like a commune, like a
Yeah,
like a compound, like hippie compound, but not hippie, but like they all
right.
live on a
Yeah.
farm, they all work together, there's no hierarchy,
Yes.
there's no everybody's equal kind of situation.
Yeah. I mean, they did have people like later that were, the head of the house, but I just feel like compared to the other houses, it wasn't quite as extreme. Like
Mm-hmm.
the title of the I am the leader of the folk of Haleth doesn't carry as much weight as the other houses.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. So the other two houses, one was the house of. Do you remember? It sounds like one of your favorite characters from The Hobbit. It's just missing the N.
The N at the
Yeah,
end?
it's missing. Yes, it's the only difference in the spelling.
Which
This
character
is
N?
the this is the house that Aragorn descended from, and Baron, one of the first houses that was established in Beleriand after they crossed the mountains. Yeah, yeah.
It's not Bear.
It's close though.
Bear. The House of Bear. The house.
Beor.
Oh, well. So like the bear
Beorn.
from The Hobbit.
Yeah, kind of like Beorn, but Beor. And the other house that we kind of relate to the Men of Rohan.
Dog name. Sorry.
Huh?
That'd be a cool name for a dog. Bear.
Oh,
That sounds very
ooh, I like
cool
it.
dog name.
I like it. So the other house is kind of the golden-haired Viking clan. Tor was a good representation of this house. Begins with an H.
And it's not Hurin, even though it's the Children of Hurin.
Right.
Um,
It is the House of Hador.
Hador. That sounds like the Holdor from
Hodor, yeah.
Hodor.
All right,
Yeah.
so we've got the Folk of Haleth, or the Men of Brethel, the House of Beor, and the House of Hador. So those three houses just kind of keep in the back of your head. Now, Hador, aka Hador Goldenhead, had a daughter and a son, and both of them married into the Folk of Haleth, Men of Brethel clan. But it was his son who had two sons that are very important to this story. Hurin and Huor. Correct. Now, you might remember some things about Hurin and Huor from the Silmarillion, but here's what we are told about them in the Unfinished Tales. Hurin got his short height from his mother's folk, the Haleth Brethel, but took everything else, his fair-colored face, his golden hair, his strength, and quote-unquote fiery mood from his father, who was of the House of Hador. Quote, but the fire in him burned steadily, and he had great endurance of will.
What does that mean? It's like when you see people, it's like when you see parents like, my toddler, my son or daughter or whatever is so fiercely independent and blah, 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 and like strong willed and stuff like that. And then in my brain, I'm like, you're just fancily saying they're really
They're
hard.
jerks.
They're like a handful. I don't know
Yeah.
how to control them. So what does a fiery mood mean?
I would say like maybe, I mean, you would think like a quick temper, but it says the fire in him burned steadily. We're going to get some more examples of maybe what that would mean, but the great endurance of will part, if you think of what his eventual fate was, and hearing him here described as having a great endurance of will, because spoilers, remember, he's going to end up sitting on that stone rock chair.
Watch all his kids die.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So the great endurance of will, like he withstood a lot from Morgoth. He just, I don't know how to else to, he great endurance of will. It's a great way of putting it when you remember all the things that he went through.
Oh.
Yeah. Hurin also had a good relationship with the Noldor, which wasn't a common thing among the men at that time. I mean, some people did, but his was just like really good with the Noldor. Quote, of all men of the North, he knew most of the councils of the Noldor. And I'll explain why that's important in the next episode. But now about his brother Huor, on the other hand, he seemed to mainly resemble his father's folk, the House of Hador, because he was in fact the tallest man ever. That is until his own son Tuor was born, when he became the tallest man ever. And did I forget to mention their dad's nickname? His like moniker, it was literally the Tall. So having a tall son makes sense. And grandson.
You know what? In my brain, I'm seeing Little John from Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yes, 100%. I would say that is Huor.
Really tall, really thick, like barrel chest, just huge dude. Mm-hmm. Blonde beard.
But at the same time, though, it also mentions here that Huor is known as a fast runner. Like he could sprint really fast. Quote, but if the race were long and hard, Hurin would be the first home, for he ran as strongly at the end of the course as at the beginning.
Oh, distance runner.
Yes.
I mean, you could be huge and run really fast.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Maybe a leaner version of that, of Little John. But despite their differences, the brothers did love each other and were very close. And they actually continued to fight together in some of the aftermath clashes following the Battle of Sudden Flame, until one day they got separated from the battle, got Eagle Ubered to Gondolin, stayed there for a bit, and then Eagle Ubered home. They don't really go into details of that story. How come? What?
Okay, I can't remember, but just quickly tell me, how come they got to leave? Because aren't you not supposed to leave if you go to Gondolin?
They pinky promised they wouldn't tell.
Oh. They signed an NDA.
That's the quickest way I can say it. Yeah, that's the quickest way I can say it. And actually, they don't even really go into the story of Hurin and Huor and Gondolin here in the Unfinished Tales. Basically, it says, look at the Silmarillion version. We pretty much covered it there. So now the two brothers are back home. and Morgoth actually tries an attack on the men of the North in their area. And the men are able to resist him. However, Hurin and Huor's father dies. And although Hurin is only 23 at the time and is just kind of entering manhood, he is now the Lord of Dor-lómin. That's the word I was looking for. Lord of Dor-lómin and the head of the House of Hodor.
Oh, fancy.
So now that he is the Lord of Dor-lómin, got to get a wife, right? You got to further that bloodline. And you know what better house to marry into than the House of Beor? Now, at this time, the House of Beor is pretty much shattered. The Battle of Sun and Flame led to the forming of the 12 Outlaws. I'm not sure if you remember those guys.
Yeah.
Basically, the last few remaining men of the House of Beor, including a really cool guy. I'm not sure if you know his name. His name was Baron. He was cool, I guess. But the women and children that remained of the House of Beor had basically just had to flee their homeland to Dor-lómin, which was ruled by the House of Hodor. So the women and children escaped to the House of Hodor's land, and the outlaws just stayed where they were and basically got obliterated. And then Baron had to escape and blah, 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 side quest.
Sad.
Yes, but it is also probably how Hurin met his new wife, Morwen, and how Huor would meet his soon-to-be wife, Rian. Now, both Rian and Morwen are cousins, and funny enough, it is their own fathers who are one of the 12 outlaws. And just to confuse you further, their dads were cousins of Baron, which, if my family genealogy is right, that would make Morwen and Rian second cousins to Baron. If your father is cousins with someone, I think that's how it works. Yeah. Anyways, Hurin's wife is Morwen, and she is described as, quote, dark-haired and tall, and for the light of her glance and the beauty of her face, men called her Elethwain, the Elven Fair, but she was somewhat stern of mood and proud.
Oh.
So very pretty, but she's got a resting bee face. That's just kind of how I see it. So in my head, definitely Lena Headey from Game of Thrones or 300 vibes, or Cora from Last of the Mohicans is kind of what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to paint a picture. I can't quite figure out Hurin in my brain, though.
He's They get married.
So they get married in the year about 464, which is about 9 years after the Battle of Sun and Flame. And then they quickly have a son in that same year named Turin, and a daughter 2 years after that. More on them later. Now, I'm not sure if I realized this before, but Hurin and Huor didn't have a joint wedding. For some reason in my head, they married cousins. You get together, you get married at the same time.
They wanted their own way.
Huor and Rian.
That she was proud. Like, I want my own wedding. This is not, I'm not doubling up on anything. This is my day.
Okay, I'll give you that. But Huor and Rian wouldn't be married until 472, which is 8 years after Hurin and Morwen. So, I mean, give that bridezilla her space. You can't steal her day. Give her 8 years. Maybe that's long enough.
Maybe Huor was not ready to commit. He was dragging his feet. He wasn't getting there. Poor Rian was like, where's that ring? I'm like, come on. She's, questioning the relationship.
What's so sad though? What's so sad though is by the time they do get married, he leaves like 2 months later, and then he dies.
Yeah, he's clearly not ready for commitment. Like, he's clearly, like, if it takes 8 years
it's so
to put a ring on it, that boy was not committed. He could.
His son was awesome. His son was awesome. But what I was figuring out though was that makes Turin 8 years older than Tor. which
That's a
I
big
don't know
gap.
why that like breaks my brain a little. Like, wait, no, okay. I don't know why taller people can't be older or can't be younger than older. If you're taller, you're older. Like, I don't know why that.
That's how my
My
that's
brain.
how that's how my kids feel because my kids are really tall, but they have a lot of friends that are older than them, and
Mm,
the older friends are like kind of a little peeved of like, wait, you're only 8? Or like, oh, you're
yeah,
only 10? And it's like,
yeah.
yeah. They're like, oh. Like the smaller friends that are older, it's pretty funny.
Well,
They have no control
anyway, I know,
about their growth.
Anyways, in the years since the Battle of Sudden Flame, Morgoth's shadow has only lengthened, especially in the north. He has just spread and decimated everything he touches. But something else has happened in these years that gives the men and elves of Beleriand just a glimmer of hope. Simultaneously, the story of Beren and Luthien has been going on, and their epic quest for the Silmaril has spread and even put to shame Morgoth because of him falling asleep on the throne and losing his Silmaril and everything.
Yeah, what a
So,
loser.
what a loser. Are we really afraid of this guy? And then on
They
top
just
of
laugh
that,
at
or
them now.
maybe,
And then it makes it worse because when like bullies get laughed at, they get even meaner. Oh no.
yes, yes, and yeah, and the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. But before that, and possibly because of the bravery and heroism of Beren and Luthien, Maedhros, the eldest son of Fëanor, also starts gathering allies and fortifying his armies. And they even have some victories and manage to push the orcs back a bit. And, talk is in the air of more victories to come and possibly, seeking redemption for the Battle of Sudden Flame. But, there were others who weren't so sure. Quote, ever will some new evil be hatched in Angband, beyond the guests of elves and men, they said. And in the autumn of that year, to point their words, there came an ill wind from the north under leaden skies. The evil breath, it was called, for it was pestilent, and many sickened and died in the fall of the year in the northern lands that bordered on the gasping dust. And they were, for the most part, the children of the rising youth in the houses of men.
No, that's so sad. Oh my gosh. So what do they think it what is that? Like
Well, and what's funny is I was thinking about this. This actually happens later in the books too, from Sauron. He took a note from his master's book. Remember when they killed part of the men of Gondor? They just like wiped out a whole town that was next to Sauron's Mordor. They just like
so sad.
evil breath, evil air, but if you think about it, though, it's an amazing strategy on Morgoth's part. If somehow, I don't know, again, what level of magic is Tolkien allowing here to purposefully wipe out the coming generation of soldiers that want to kill you? Because it would be that generation probably that they were building up the army. So to wipe out that generation is pretty smart. Very
That's
sad, but
strategic.
pretty smart.
It's
Yeah.
strategic, but also so sad. Oh my gosh.
So sad. And it is amongst this horrible, evil breath that we are going to begin the story of a young Turin. Next week.
Ow. Fine.
Sorry. It's a bit of a shorter episode. I have no gauge anymore since our almost hour and a half episode last week.
We're evening it out.
We're evening it out. So thank you for joining us on this whimsical journey through Middle-earth and Beleriand. To dive deeper into our world off air, you can follow us at Sisters of the Shire podcast on Instagram. There you will uncover a treasure trove of posts, enchanting art, and delightful memes that capture the essence of our current episodes and some hidden gems that we can't help but share with you. We are celebrating. Happy birthday, Abby. Or happy anniversary. Is it birthday or anniversary? It is a birth of
Birthday.
our podcast. It was born
Yes.
2 years ago. Has
Our
it
sweet
been
child.
2 years? Our sweet
We
baby.
share custody. Yes, 2 years. That's crazy. And some of you have been with us this whole time, which is crazy. And we're so grateful for you guys being here.
So grateful. We couldn't have done it without you. If no one listened to us, I wouldn't say we would have stopped a while ago. We probably still would do it, but at least gives me motivation to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And also a heartfelt thanks to our patrons who really have stuck with us through thick and thin. Dan, our steadfast dwarf friend of the Shire, Krishane and Tom, our esteemed elf companions. Your unwavering support means the world to us. And if you want to become a patron, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com// Sisters of the Shire podcast. We do offer 3 tiers. $3 a month is an elf friend of the Shire. $7 is a dwarf friend of the Shire. And for $9 a month, you can become one of the valiant men, women friends of the Shire. And as a token of our gratitude, we might even serenade you with a song. Depends on how we're feeling that day. Or what ChatGPT comes up with. And lastly, if our adventures have sparked joy in your heart, please take a moment to leave us a rating and review if you can on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps others find us and helps us connect with more kindred spirits across Middle Earth. So please share with your friends and rate and review.
Oh, and tell everyone about us.
Yes.
Share with so many people that we're family friendly. We don't take things too seriously. We're not gatekeeping anything. We love new fans. If this is the first time learning about Tolkien, we're not here to shame you and saying, oh, you haven't read these things. No, we're here to help you learn and love them.
Yes.
So, it doesn't matter your knowledge. We just would love to have you stay and keep listening and share with your friends and family.
100%. So, in world news, Austria, where are you coming from? Your beautiful country has taken over Slovenia, Czech Republic, Brazil, Spain, and has taken 13th place. So, get it, Austria. And Abigail, I didn't think there was any more left, but we got a new country.
What? Whoa. Okay. Let me guess the continent.
Okay.
South America.
No.
Africa.
No.
Europe.
Yes. Somehow there's still a European country that's left.
Luxembourg.
We already have that one.
Oh, we do? Oh.
I think so.
Transylvania.
Yep, we have Luxembourg. No, but you're getting close to the area.
I don't know. There's too many.
It looks
too many
beautiful.
Tiny little countries.
I know. It looks beautiful. It's a landlocked country in Central Europe. It is bordered by Poland to the north, Ukraine to the east, and Hungary to the south, I believe. It's near Budapest and Vienna. And it is beautiful. It's got castles. Yeah.
Castles.
No, I love me some castles. It is Slovakia.
Oh. Is that considered Europe or is it considered Asia?
It says Europe.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, this one picture literally looks like Middle Earth.
I always get confused with the ones that are close by to Russia, because Russia is Asia.
Right.
So I'm I don't know.
Right.
You know?
I'm sending you a picture of this because this looks beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us, Slovakia.
Beautiful Slovakian person that listened.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyway, well, thank you for teaching me today.
You're welcome. Until next week, I've been Ashley.
And I've been Abby, and this has been the Sisters of the Shire podcast. And we're so, so happy that you joined us today, and we hope you can join us next time. Bye!
Bye!
Thank you for teaching me a day.
Yay!